In the build-up to Cyberpunk 2077's initial release in late 2020, I was cautious but optimistic. I loved The Witcher 2 and 3, and from what I had heard of CD Projekt Red's newest game, it sounded incredibly cool and exciting. A game based on a tabletop role-playing game I had heard of and always been intrigued by, being made by a developer with a proven track record. What could go wrong? But as previews started to come out in the build-up to launch, I began to worry, and then with little to no information about the PS4 version, my optimism died. I ended up not getting the game on release, which is something that I had initially planned to do, and ended up being so glad that I had changed my mind. It's no secret that Cyberpunk's release was a mess, almost unplayable on consoles from what I have seen, so I left it, and I figured it would just be a game that I never played. Then, a few years later, just after the DLC named Phantom Liberty came out, I started seeing comments about the game being fixed with this big new 2.0 update, and it was actually good now. So I had a look, and my interest was piqued again. I found the PS4 version on sale for a decent price, and found out that the PS5 edition was a free upgrade, so I thought, why not? I'll give it a second chance, see how it goes. So, Tunes, after spending 93 hours in Night City, what do I think? Is Cyberpunk 2077 preem now with its 2.0 update, or is it a game for gonks and a waste of eddies? Let's find out. Cyberpunk 2077 is an open-world RPG, where you play as V, a mercenary trying to make his way in Night City. You start the game by creating a character, picking your starting stats, and then picking a background that will help start the story off. For me, I chose the Corpo background, and saw my corporate Arasaka intel guy get betrayed by his boss, and then saved by his friend Jackie Wells. V uses this opportunity to start fresh and become the merc they were meant to be, picking themselves up and beginning to make a name for themselves. The story itself is an interesting one without getting into spoilers, and what I thought was going to be a simple story of V climbing the ranks to become the top dog in Night City quickly changed into something a lot deeper and more personal. I thoroughly enjoyed the way the core narrative shifted from this rising to the top story to being more about V's struggle to stay alive when faced with losing himself, and I felt the story did a great job of introducing allies, enemies, and new perspectives into the story. One of the reasons I felt the narrative was so strong was because of these side characters' presence. Almost all of the characters that V meets are so well written that it's very easy to get attached to them. Most of the characters are written with a real sense of depth and personality to them, and almost all of them charm the hell out of me by the end of their individual questlines, even the characters that I didn't think much of first, such as Kerry Eurodyne or Rogue. My only exception to this was River Ward.
Hey, V.
River's questline was actually one of my favourites, investigating a spree of kidnappings and murders, but my god, was he such a boring character compared to everyone else. Besides him, all the other character-related side quests and moments were really interesting though. You can romance certain characters depending on your V's gender and preferences, and the relationship that my character formed with Panam was really cute. I particularly liked that you would get random texts from them throughout the game, asking how your day was or telling you what was going on with them, and it helped make these relationships feel a lot more natural and believable. Without going into spoilers though, the best of these is Johnny Silverhand by far. His character was the star of the show, and it felt like it was him who got the most development depending on your choices throughout the game. His story and what you find out about his past and who he was is just great. Compared to V, who was mostly a gruff-sounding blank slate, Johnny felt like the real main character of the game, and Keanu Reeves did an excellent job voicing him. One thing that the game did that I thought was a really nice choice was how some of these side quests open up different endings for you when you get to a certain point in the story. I feel like this would have added a lot more work to a game that already needed a bit longer in the oven at launch, but it would have been nice if some of the other characters got to affect the endings the same way that Rogue or Panam did. The endings themselves were all really good though, and one ending in particular felt like the good ending, even though when I started it I thought it was going to be a bad one, so that was a nice surprise. Though I did enjoy the story as a whole, I did feel like the main questline itself was actually quite short. It didn't feel like there were 26 different story missions. I'm not sure if the quests themselves weren't very long, or if it was a perception thing, but it felt like it didn't take me that long to get through them. Like all open world games, Cyberpunk 2077 has a myriad of side activities, and unfortunately, these are a real mixed bag. As I just said, all of the side gigs about V's friends are fun to do and touch on a range of themes and story beats that I found interesting, amusing, or heartwarming. In fact, almost every side job that has a yellow icon in the map is great. There was one side mission involving a politician running for office that was just amazing. I didn't see the twist that this side story took coming at all, and it left me thinking about the concepts the game had touched on for a few days after I'd finished it. Unfortunately, these are the minority of the quests in the game. The bulk of the side content lies in the Night City Police Department hustle missions, where you will run into a small group of between 3 and 15 gang members, kill them all, pick up an item, and then leave. You will need to do all of these as part of your journey for the Platinum Trophy, and it's a real drag. There are way over 100 of these dotted around the map, and it felt like the bulk of my time with the game was just cleaning these up. Cyberpunk isn't necessarily difficult at all, so a lot of this just felt like pointless busy work. There are other side gigs that are a little bit more complicated, that have you doing things like sneak in somewhere to pick up an item, or hack a computer, or take down a specific target. And some of these have bonus objectives, which does help them feel a little bit different. But again, there are so many of these that it mostly just felt like a chore. Luckily though, the tedium of these side quests is relieved some by how good the game feels to play. You have lots of choices in how to build your character, with there being 5 main stats you can invest in: body, reflexes, technical, intelligence, and cool. Each of these have different skills attached to them that you can unlock with perk points that you earn, and these will increase your options. In my run, I played through focusing on technical and reflexes, with a bit of body and intelligence on the side. Technical allows you to equip more cyberware, which in turn gives you more armor or abilities, so it seemed a bit like the best stat overall. But it did really let me stack on the high level cyberware by the end of the game, including equipping some dope mantis blades that set people on fire, legs that gave me a double jump, and the Sandevistan, which was a cyberware item that would temporarily slow down time. I did mess around with intelligence as well, because the quick hack system that you can use on your enemies was really fun. You can use these quick hacks to do things like detonate grenades that they're carrying, or knock out an enemy from a distance. I didn't really use the skills for cool or body too often, but I did have a look through them and saw skills related to stealth, throwing knives, or LMGs, which sounded like it could have been a really good time. These stats also affect some of the ways that you can explore and interact with the world around you. Having a high intelligence skill, for example, lets you hack terminals for extra cash or crafting materials, while having a high body stat can let you force open doors that would be locked. Some of these also open new dialogue choices, so it always feels like the build you were working on mattered. Graphically, Cyberpunk looks fantastic. The character models are great, and there always seemed to be like a nice variety of NPC and car models as you walked around the city. I will say there's an emphasis on walked though. I did notice when I was driving around the city at speed on my bike, the game struggled to keep up with generating different NPCs, so I would see a lot of repeating models in a short period of time, and also very few cars on the road with me. There were some weird bugs and glitches I found, usually nothing game breaking, but things like NPCs and enemies getting stuck on random geometry, or just bugging out and doing nothing while I shot them was pretty common. There were a few times I got stuck on something and stopped being able to move, and one time I was standing on a crate that I fell through and I had to restart the game. The worst bug I encountered was an enemy body ragdolling and getting stuck in a doorway that closed. Their body warped so much that initially it just made me laugh, but then the game's frame rate tanked to about 3 FPS. This stayed this way until I reloaded my save from before the enemy died, so this was quite frustrating. As you play through Cyberpunk 2077, you explore much of Night City, and Night City is gorgeous, when it wants to be, and an ugly mess, when it wants to be, and I mean this in the best possible way. The towering skyscrapers of Corpo Plaza, the beautiful park areas surrounding it, are amazing to look at and walk through, while the dingy back streets of Santo Domingo feel like another world completely. It sounds weird to say this, but I love the mountains of trash that you can find in the Badlands against the horizon of rusted and dilapidated wind turbines. It's amazing to just drive around and soak in the atmosphere of the place. It's such a well-realised sandbox to play in and explore, and I always felt like I was seeing or hearing something new. There are certain places in video games where the location almost feels like a character in itself, much more than just the setting. Midgar from Final Fantasy VII or the Spencer Mansion from Resident Evil are great examples of this, and Night City felt the same to me. It has so much character to it, from its crazy billboards advertising things like drugs, sex, or fancy new cyberware, to its hidden backstreet markets full of sex workers or gun vendors. The weather effects that you can encounter while exploring make all the areas feel and look different too. Thick fog or disgusting yellow smog sometimes fills the areas. There are moments when you are just walking around at night when the area is covered in fog or raining heavily, and all you can see are the neon lights of adverts through the fog, and it looks and feels almost like a real city. The environmental storytelling of Night City was really well done as well, and it felt like the dystopian future it envisioned was both incredibly cool and a hauntingly stark idea of what the future could be when uncontrolled capitalism runs amok. The irony of these messages being given by a corporation who made their dev team crunch to get this game out is not lost in me, but it is in keeping with the tabletop game's roots as far as I know. As you explore, there are things like random shootouts between gangs and the police, or gangs and other gangs, and so many enemies drop shards, which are little text logs that will help flesh out the world around you. As I was playing and reading these, it made me wonder how much of this was based on the adventure modules of the tabletop game. And after I finished, it did make me want to pick up the source books to have a look and see how easy this game was to pick up and play. So all that remains is how to earn the trophies, and what you need to do to get that shiny platinum trophy called Never Fade Away. There will be some spoilers ahead, but I'll try and keep them to a minimum. There are 6 main story trophies that you can't miss as you play through the game, and then 4 different ending trophies. These ending trophies are missable, however, as they rely on having completed the companion quest trophies for both Panam and Rogue. To get Rogue's trophy, you will need to be nice to Johnny when you visit his grave to try and become his friend. Then call Rogue and go on a date. Finish the rest of her quests and you'll get the trophy. For Panam, you just need to successfully complete all 3 of her quests. These will earn you Bushido and Chill for Rogue, and Life on the Road for Panam. There's also a missable ending related to a story trophy, where you will need to save Takamura when you are attacked after you've been to a parade with him. When you get to the end of the game, there'll be a conversation on a balcony between V and Johnny, and it will give you some options. Trust Arasaka to get the Devil Ending trophy, which will be missable if you didn't save Takamura. If you choose to go with Rogue and then let V live at the end, you'll get the Sun trophy. Or you can choose to go with Panam. Let V live at the end for the Star trophy, or choose to let Johnny live for the Temperance trophy. There are also missable trophies for the side quest for the other side characters, Judy, Kerry, and River. For Judy, just make sure you don't betray her when given the opportunity. Make sure you go with Kerry for coffee when he asks you to. And for River, there'll be a brain dance where you have to scan for clues. Make sure you get every single one. It's not too difficult, but if you miss one, you'll miss his trophy. As you play, there will be a few miscellaneous trophies that you need to keep an eye out for, that rely on specific cyberware being installed. None of these are too difficult, but you do need to go out of your way to find and install the cyberware. The first of these, called V for Vendetta, is for killing the enemy who killed you within 5 seconds of being revived by the Second Heart cyberware. I actually unlocked this in the tutorial by accident, as I think you can't die there, but it shouldn't be too hard to get once you've bought the cyberware for it. The next trophy, called the Quick and the Dead, needs you to kill 50 enemies while in slowed time. The Sandevistan cyberware will let you slow down time by pressing L1 and R1 for a short time, and then the ability will need to recharge before you can use it again. You can also use the slow down ability to shoot a grenade that has been thrown at you, which will earn you the trophy Gunslinger. For the Rough Landing trophy, you require the Berserk cyberware. While this is active with L1 and R1 again, you need to jump from a height and perform a superhero landing that kills or incapacitates 2 or more people at once. You do this by having a blunt weapon equipped, and then jumping and holding R2 as you land. Lastly, there are a few trophies involving quick hacks, which you'll need a cyberware deck that allows you to equip and use them. You need to use the Detonate Grenade quick hack on someone, and have that grenade kill at least 3 people for Demon in the Shell, and you will need to use the Distract Enemies quick hack 30 times without being caught. I did this just by spamming it in one of the stealth missions. There is also a trophy called Christmas Tree Attack, which involves getting a minimum of 3 demons uploaded in the Breach Protocol minigame. This is also not that difficult if you raise your intelligence stat to at least 5 and buy the perk to give you more inputs, or buy a cyber deck that has a bigger buffer. Also, the minigame is actually really fun to figure out the puzzle, and pretty lucrative when you need cash or quick hack crafting pots. Next, there are a whole bunch of miscellaneous combat trophies that don't rely on any specific cyberware, but you just need to do a lot of things. You need to kill 300 enemies with ranged weapons and 100 with melee weapons. You need to kill 2 enemies with the same sniper rifle shot, which is quite easy to do if you find a tech sniper rifle, which will allow you to charge the shot before you make it. While using a pistol or revolver, kill 3 enemies in quick succession while in close combat for the gun food trophy, and at last, kill an enemy that threw a grenade at you for right back at you. None of these are difficult or time consuming, and you are likely to get most of these in just normal gameplay. There are a few other random trophies that you need for having cyberware equipped in every body part available, for the full body conversion trophy. Use dialogue options that relate to your starting background in conversation 10 times for the Stanislav's Method trophy. I think this is technically missable, but you get so many opportunities to do this, I'm not sure if it actually is. You will also need to craft 3 tier 5 items. This was pretty easy to do as you get so much loot from enemies. Just don't sell anything, dismantle it instead in the crafting menu, and then use the crafting material to upgrade the tiers till you get tier 5 materials, then use them to craft whatever you want. You also need to reach max street cred, which you'll almost definitely do on your way to clearing out all the side missions, and buy every car from the auto jocks. You get so much money from the story and side gigs, and you can also craft and sell quick hacks for a lot of extra cash if you do need more. The 10 out of 10 trophy is for maxing a skill level. Skills level up separately from your stats depending on your playstyle. If you get kills with swords or SFGs for example, it will raise your shinobi skill. If your playstyle relies on quick hacks, you'll raise your netrunner skill pretty quickly. Getting one of these to the max level 60 can take a lot of work though, and I had to do about 3 hours of kill grinding to get the shinobi skill to the max level after I finished the game. If you want to avoid this, pick a weapon type associated with the skill you want to max out and stick to it for every mission possible, and you shouldn't need to grind that much by the end. There is one other missable trophy for collecting all of Johnny Silverhand's clothes. One of these is missable as you can leave the apartment in the side gig Psycho Fan without grabbing the clothes. Finding them all though will get you the trophy Breathtaking, which is a lovely reference to Keanu Reeves. Lastly then, you'll need to get 100% completion of the map. This is a real grind, and I found a lot of it to be repetitive and boring. You'll need to do every single NCPD side hustle, as I mentioned earlier, but you'll also need to do every Cyber Psycho mission, every side gig, find every tarot card graffiti, and find every fast travel point. I think this part alone took me the bulk of my 90 plus hours that I played the game. There are 9 trophies related to these though, and most of them are related to clearing out each district of side missions, so it's best just to focus on one area at a time between main missions. So with all said and done, Cyberpunk 2077 is a game that I'm in 2 minds about. When I look at the game from a trophy hunting perspective, and the monotony of some of its side content and sheer amount of dross that there is, I found that it really soured my experience of the game, and I never had any sense of elation after earning the trophies for clearing out each district, more a sense of relief. However, when I look at the main content, with its great story and interesting characters and the incredible world around them, I did find that I was enjoying the game. I was curious when I started if it would convince me to buy and play the Phantom Liberty DLC, and it definitely has done that. And I would say that I would recommend the game. Perhaps not as a full price title, but definitely one to pick up on sale, especially if you're not interested in getting trophies. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it helps you make a decision about whether you would want to try or platinum Cyberpunk 2077 now that it's been updated. Please leave a comment below letting me know what you thought, and check out pressxgaming.com for a spoiler-filled review with my thoughts on the story. Thanks again, and I'll catch you next time.